Hello, and welcome back to the ministry, and we're on part 3 of this. I was just about to point out, I talked about Stephanie P's video where she was at the top of a mountain. Now, you and your spouse have been going up 2 different sides of a mountain. A lot of us have been in a place where God has been keeping us in a holding pattern. I mentioned this in a word a while ago. I don't even remember what word that was, but I mentioned the fact that God has had us. It's like we're at the top of the mountain. We're at a plateau in the mountain. We're not at the top, but we're at a plateau at the top of the mountain where we can literally see the top of the mountain, meaning we are hanging on that side that's, if we pull up a little bit, meaning if we climb just a little bit further, we will see the top of this mountain. And God has us sitting on a plateau right there. And God's been keeping us right there. There is a great view on this plateau, but we're not quite to the top. Stephanie P, in her video, she shows standing at the top of a mountain. You can see that she's at the top, but she's standing on the plateau. You can still see there's a mountain behind her, meaning there's probably another elevation, but that's probably the plateau that she could get to. That they weren't probably supposed to go any further than that. A lot of us are on that plateau. We have spiritually elevated. We have lined ourselves up for our God-ordained marriages. We have done all that we were supposed to do. And we're sitting on this plateau. Great view. She had an amazing view of the clouds. All you could see was clouds, which brings me back to what I was saying in the previous video, that you've come out of the storm. You've elevated above your storms. You've finally reached that point. It was a beautiful view of the sunset in her video. You are at the point of sunrise. Okay? God is about to do what he promised you. You are at the top of the mountain. And the Lord is allowing me the ability to speak on this. I had a dream a couple years back. I was still in New York when I had this dream. And in it, I saw me and my God-ordained spouse. We were sitting atop a hill, actually. But for this all intents and purposes, he's allowed me to use this, that you and your spouse are going to reach the top. We were sitting together up there, which means he finally reached me. You and your spouse are going to finally come together. We all have heard the words. It's repetitive as of right now. He's coming. He's on his way. He's en route. He's running to you. He's doing all of this. It's about to happen. You have reached your new beginning. A lot of us, and it's funny, I was watching a video yesterday and the person was saying, I know, a lot of us are at that point. We sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing these videos where people are saying, oh, it's about to happen. It's right there. Just hold on. The promise is right here. You just got to hold on just a little bit longer. I know. I hear it too. I do. I hear it. I thank God for the people that the Lord sends to me to even acknowledge that fact that we all tired of hearing it too. But when the Lord confirms it, because the Lord has confirmed it for me, specifically, meaning I have had recollection visions, dreams, instructions. I know that I know. I can't tell you what I know, but I know. It's happening. It is. And we do have to be ready at any time. Recall the scripture where, and this is a side note, of the 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish virgins. We're the ones that have been standing with our lamps lit. The ones that you see, let's talk about it since we're here. The ones that have allowed their lamps to go out, these are the ones, let's talk about it. The ones that have, I'm going as with somebody else. Though you know that the Lord done told you who your husband was. I'm gonna go date somebody because I'm bored. He ain't here. He's dating who he want to date, so I'm gonna just date somebody else. Foolish version. Those of y'all that sitting up there like that, I talked about this in a video previously. Sit up there. Oh, I'm a date and well, if he went off and he dated and he got married to somebody, I'm gonna go date and get married to somebody because I'm tired of keeping my body right and waiting on him. Excuse me, you dummy. Sorry. You this close to your marriage and you're going to go start dating other people and seek marriage for somebody else because they taking too long. Do that if you want to. Go back and look at my marriage video about the marriage certificate and about the fact that you would be coming into a contractual agreement which is legally binding if you marry somebody else and that's not your spouse. And then guess what? You're going to have to fight like hell to get out of that relationship. And may God be with you that this person does not do anything to you to further mess you up. Because I guarantee you that's a demon sent by hell that is going to literally mess you up during that time. Especially once you figure out, oh, I shouldn't have gotten married to this person. I got a husband. And your God-ordained spouse has every right to make the decision at that particular point. Because both of Christ just recently did a video. I guess this is where I'm bringing this up then. And she talked about she was married to somebody and they got married to somebody else. She knew that wasn't their wife. But she told the Lord that she wanted a new love story. And the Lord said, yes, he was going to give it to her. What if your God-ordained spouse, because you won't be out here doing something stupid, 5 foolish virgins, says, oh, you got married to somebody else. I'm going to get married to somebody else too. So, because obviously I've stood for you and you left me. So I'm going to just go on. And then you sitting up there thinking, I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to come out of this. And then you come out and they done got married to somebody else. God ain't going to have y'all sitting up there playing games spiritually. Oh, I'm going to get with this person and I'm going to come out. Nah, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. He's not going to have you playing around with these men like that. Foolish virgins. Those of us that have kept our lampstand lit, never even looked at another man. Didn't entertain, didn't sleep with, didn't. I'm not saying that God can't bless y'all, foolish virgins. But it would behoove you to not make the mistake in the first place. If you did, repent. Because God just wants your repentance. He may even be able to fix it if you married the wrong person. Out of his will. After he done told you. But you got to be willing to. Okay. And with that being said, some of your God-ordained spouses, they gonna meet you at the top. They're going to meet you at the top of the mountain. We've seen the winds, we've seen the rains, but we had to elevate to the level to get to where they were. And so did they. And with that, you're both looking down, just like when Jesus was brought to the top of the mountain. Think about it. And you can now see the vastness of your promised land. Because Jesus knew that was his Father's land. The devil was trying to sell it to him under a false pretense. But he knew that that was his Father's. You and your God-ordained spouses are about to walk into what God has ordained for you. Now, the Lord has shown me, I did not speak about this when I was doing the review on the song Be Without You, I think it was, from Be With You or Be Without You from Mary J. Blige. There was a scene where Mary J. Blige is getting out the car and walking a red carpet. I've already talked about some of y'all that know that you are to marry an influential person. You are called to public recognition. And some of y'all freaking out about that. You are. Because of the fact that you're going to be on red carpets. And you're going to have to get dressed. You're going to be going to events. You're going to be doing that. The Lord showed me. I've seen this clearly. I mean, real clear. And this is what made me come back to this. That you are going in the vision that he showed me. It was a vision. Was it a vision or was it a dream? This was years ago, about 7-8 years ago. In it, I was sitting on the floor and my spouse was sitting next to me. We were watching television. I don't even know what we were watching on television. That wasn't important. We just knew the TV was on. And he stood up. And when he stood up, he was wearing his regular... He was wearing his day clothes. It wasn't the celebrity clothes. It was the average khaki pants and a sweater that he had on. Oh, this man just looks fine in anything. Anyway, he got up and he stuck his hand out to me, who was sitting on the floor, looking very regular, much like I am right now. But you know how I do when I wear my headscarf. Something like that. And he reached down for me. When he reached down from the standing position that he was in, he pulled me up into a standing position. But the scene switched that I was no longer sitting on the floor. I was stepping out a car. And I had on this gorgeous red gown. And my hair was curled, and I was done to the nines, man, including the fact that my hair was straight. I had it flat pressed. My hair lied to you. You see how my hair is? It lied to you. It's all the way down here. And matter of factly, that's just me holding it stretched. I had my hair flat pressed while I was in New York. My hair is all the way down my back. And I've clipped this once. I clipped it a year and a half ago when I first got here. I clipped it just prior to that and took about almost 4 inches off of it. So it's regrown in the past 2.5 years. So I'm probably back to all the way down my back. And but It was flat pressed, curled, and I literally got out of the car and he walked ahead of me and we were walking a red carpet. And it was as if I saw him beckon me. You know how when the person's on the carpet and they have somebody and I like might have been standing to the side or coming up and I'm like, I see all the cameras and all that, but I'm looking from my viewpoint at him and he's beckoning me like, come on. Like he wants me to come to stand with him as we're on this carpet. Some of you are coming to a point of that kind of public recognition. For real. For real, for real. But I also want to preface by saying this. You're coming into public recognition, but it may also not be what you're expecting. I remember Journey Smollett used to have a Periscope years ago. And I used to follow her on Periscope. And she did a red carpet run. I watched the Periscope of her red carpet run. And they make it look really all that on, but as I was saying, the fact of the matter is that you have to have the understanding that you are going to be in public recognition, but it may not be the way that you would initially expect. Are there going to be red carpets? Yes. God may not start you there. Some of your spouses have community impact. Do you want me to say that? Yeah, let's put it this way. I know that my God ordained spouse was in town recently. He's been in town about 5 times and he come nowhere near me. Nowhere near me. Nowhere near me. But he was in town. And I'm gonna preface this by saying this. For those of you that your God ordained spouse, some people experience different levels of warfare. Some of y'all, the Lord's been training you because there's certain levels of warfare that you can go through that are intense because they are around. I went through the few times in my God ordained spouse and I knew that we're close. We're close. And because of the fact that you're close, the devil don't even want the two of you in the same area. I know there's been warfare. I knew he came into town 2 separate occasions. And instantaneously, the day that he came into town, warfare kicked up in the spirit. I'm like, what the hell is going on here spiritually? Because I was chill, but I was sensing frustration in the atmosphere. I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't know whether it was happening on his end or what have you. Because I have a feeling that he already knows. And when the time is right, that's another sign in itself. Your God ordained spouse is coming. Some of your God ordained spouses, that's like the Lord saying, oh, if I can bring him this close to you, what you think I can do? And I feel his frustration when he's in town. And I start praying. And I'll notice it'll calm down. He was in town last month. Frustration to the hilt. I went through a hell of a whole set of warfare last month. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Because the devil don't want y'all together. Megan Michelle was talking one time about she had went out with her God-ordained spouse, and she was hanging out with him, I guess, before some interactions that they had before. And when she had hung out with him in the place that she was hanging out with him, she went through a level of sickness that hit her body that was ridiculous after coming away from him. And it was like, what the heck was this? Because of the fact that the enemy does not want y'all together. So it's levels of warfare that you'll go through. And I've noticed for both of us, it's been frustration. It's been a level of frustration on his end or what have you. And we have not ran into each other yet. Okay? So understand, public recognition may not mean. I went around that circle to say he was at a community event. He was not at a red carpet. Some of y'all might go to community events together. Some of you may go to homeless related things. Some of y'all may be sponsors, or he's speaking at something, or you're coming in as a representative, because Ariel Sparks let me know this. When you're married to your God-ordained spouse, you can actually stand in proxy for them for events that they don't want to go to, or maybe it conflicts with another obligation, whether it be a tour or what have you. You can stand in their proxy, meaning if they're supposed to receive an award in this location, they'd be like, oh, you go. That if they have to speak at a ceremony, you can stand in their proxy. So the public recognition may come like that. You may just be a stand-in for them as a starter. Some of you just may go to the event, and because you're not the one that's known, you'll be in the atmosphere, but you won't be the one that they're there for. And it's funny, I was watching a TV show on Saturday, and the woman was invited to an event because her husband had passed away. The whole write-up was on him. But they asked her to speak, and he had passed away. So public recognition may not look like what you're expecting. It may be that the Lord will ease you in like that. And some of it may just be that you got a dang spouse. It may not be cameras, lights, flashing, award ceremony, anything. It may be they had a community event where it was fundraising or something like that for something. Because some of your husbands is activists. Some of your husbands are community supporters. So maybe they are silent partners with this community event. So it may not look like what you're expecting it to look like. Some of you may be at home for a season, because as the Lord is opening up your ability, one, to adjust to being with them, and two, you're learning the lay of what it is that you have to do in that experience. It may not be that major. I remember, because I told y'all before, I used to go to community events just because I enjoyed. For instance, I was a fashion student, so I would go to the fashion events locally. My entire city has the BFA, which is the Baltimore Fashion Alliance. So I would go to the Baltimore Fashion Alliance, whichever events that I could afford to get to. They even have their own fashion week. I don't know if they've restarted it, but it's literally a Baltimore version of New York Fashion Week. So some of us have been exposed to these kinds of things, and the Lord's going to allow for there to be exposure again to certain things. But it was like those events were your training ground. Now the Lord's going to let you into real places and bigger things, which also means if you may have potential where you're speaking in proxy for your spouse, you gotta watch your mouth. Because you could say something and that end up in the person that going. I remember Shameless Maya. She did a hosting gig for Prince. But what ended up happening is she had done an event, did not get to sleep, had to sleep on a flight to California to do the event that she was doing for Prince. When she got there, she was so exhausted because she didn't even get time to rest. Once she got there, she had to prep for the day of and do all of that. So by the time the event came that night, she was deliriously tired. And she said something wrong. She was reading off of the things that she was supposed to say, and she was exhausted. So you also got to take into account some of these things. Because some of y'all going to be traveling with your spouse, and you're not used to their grind. They're going to give you some time, but public may not always mean public like that. Some of you may get some gigs just from having association. So be aware, God's going to open up opportunities for you. Some of it is going to be something that opened up because you were doing something for them. And some of it's going to open up because you did something for them. Somebody saw you. You made interactions with people in that experience and environment that's going to open up opportunities specifically for you. Because some of y'all, for the person that you're connecting yourself to, people going to be asking questions. Who are you? Where did you come from? And as soon as it's revealed, because it may not be revealed that you're their spouse initially. It may come out that you're being put into these environments, but people will not know. And you may not, because you're keeping your relationship protected, be able to say so. So you also going to have to watch your mouth in relation to that. So you may be publicly there, but you may not be able to say who and for what reason. So think about that. Your publicness may not be what you're expecting. And you may not get full push on into public limelight. You just may be on the outskirts to stuff that you may have been used to, and things may come up. The red carpet's kind of the top level, but the community experiences, the events, the speaking engagements, those kinds of things. So it may be public like that. And some of you, it may be that you're not saying anything at all because they're just bringing you with, meaning you're invited because they went. And that's their way of, one, introducing you to that environment, but also having you supporting them in those time frames. Because you don't know how nervous they get. Some of y'all, depending on the type of spouse you have, some of y'all, you'll look at the spouse and you're like, oh, he's cool. He's what have you. You get around that person during those experiences. You don't never know what happens behind closed doors. You don't ever know what happens in the surroundings of those moments. That they'll be standing there looking like Mr. Fine and Mr. Got It All Together. Wait till you get to the flip side of that. they may actually be standing there in it, being around them in that moment. They might actually be very nervous, but they know how to smile when somebody says camera. Some of y'all know how to do it too. Instagram selfie people. Those of you that know how to operate on the camera. Yeah. So understand that there is a level of understanding that you got to have. Of you gonna elevate at the harvest point, but it may not look like what you think. And some of y'all, your elevation may not even be that public. You may be the person that is keeping their agenda in order for them to be able to go to the event. You, because you're the wife and you at home, you're keeping the things in order because maybe you're pregnant at the time. So they've gotten you in a position that you're still involved, which allots you the ability to understand how their schedule works, how their public events work, how their PR stuff works, but you're not out there. Perfect example. I only got a couple of minutes. Last night, I was watching a TV show, and the character, she was invited to go to a boxing ring. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to be training and doing the boxing part and all this kind of stuff. And she gets there and she got her bag and she's like, yes. And she's watching the trainer train the other boxers and they in there fighting and kicking and doing all that. And she's like, yes. You know what the guy does? He comes up to the guy that brought her and says, we're going to do this type of training. And the guy says, you going to start her off on like that? And he's like, yeah. And at first I thought it was going to be a harsh training. It was, because it was mental. Because what he told her to do was a stepping training on how to get her muscle memory to remember where it's supposed to stand while fighting. It's a repetitive action, and she had to keep doing it 500 times. He said, I need you to do this 500 times. She said, you are kidding. He said, no, I need you to do this 500 times. Remember the movie, was it, the one that Will Smith's son, the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off? A lot of y'all gonna have that moment. Y'all thinking you're going to be out there like that, and you're going to be in the house. So, I'm just coming to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.